Have you ever found yourself in a situation that feels so completely impossible, the only thing you can think to do is pray? Well, today we're diving into a story about that exact kind of moment, but with a divine response that flips the script on what we think faith is all about. It's a powerful lesson from the shores of the Red Sea that was rediscovered thousands of years later in one of history's darkest hours. All right, so let's set the stage. We're starting at one of the most dramatic, most cinematic moments in the entire Torah. The Israelites have just been freed from centuries of slavery in Egypt, but their freedom is about to face its first and maybe its biggest test. I want you to just picture this. The panic must have been overwhelming. Behind you, you see the dust cloud of Pharaoh's chariots, the most powerful army on earth, and they are closing in fast. And in front of you, the massive, endless, uncrossable Red Sea. You are absolutely 100% trapped. There is literally nowhere to go. So what's the move? I mean, really? When you are staring down certain death and there is no physical way out, what is the only option you have left on the table? They do exactly what you or I would do. They cry out to God. Look, they just saw 10 plagues. They just walked out of Egypt miraculously. Their faith is sky high, but so is their terror. So they do the logical thing. They look up to heaven and they beg for another miracle to save them. But God's answer is, well, it's just shocking. Instead of some comforting voice from the heavens, he basically says to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Stop praying. Tell the people to start moving." Move where? Forward? Into the sea? It makes absolutely zero sense. And right there, in that totally baffling command, that's the whole key. This is a foundational lesson about what faith really is and what it actually asks of us. It's not about waiting for a rescue. It's about being part of the rescue yourself. You see, this moment reveals that there are two kinds of faith. There's what you could call a passive faith. That's what the Israelites had right then. We're just going to stand here and wait for God to do everything. But God is demanding an active faith. He's saying, if you really believe in me, show me. Take that first impossible step and I will be there to meet you. It's a partnership. This really gets to the core of what the sages call complete faith, or emunah shlama. They teach that faith that doesn't lead to action is, well, it's incomplete. It's kind of like having total confidence you're going to ace an exam, but never actually cracking a book to study. True faith isn't just a feeling, it's a verb. It's what drives you to act. Okay, now hold on to that idea, because we're going to jump forward a few thousand years. This ancient principle of active faith was tragically forgotten by many, only to be rediscovered by a remarkable rabbi right in the middle of the Holocaust, forcing him to rethink everything he'd ever been taught. Meet Rabbi Yisachar Shlomo Teichtal. Now, before the war, he was a firm believer in what many in his world believed, that Jews should patiently, passively wait in exile for a purely divine, miraculous redemption. Any kind of human action to bring it about, especially something political like Zionism, was seen as pushing God's hand, basically heresy. And then, his entire world was set on fire. While he was in hiding from the Nazis, completely cut off from his community, from his books, Rabbi Teichtal was just consumed by one single agonizing question. Why? Why is this unspeakable horror happening? And he came to a painful conclusion. This catastrophe had to be a sign that something was fundamentally wrong with their approach. Maybe, he thought, the redemption isn't coming because we're failing to do our part. So, in this incredible book that he wrote entirely from memory in a Budapest attic, Rabbi Teichtal connects the dots. He links God's command at the Red Sea directly to the crisis of his own time. He had a stunning revelation. They had been praying, but they had not been walking. He wasn't just making this up. He goes back to classic Jewish sources, like this commentary from the great medieval scholar Rashi. He uses it to argue that the desolate state of the land of Israel isn't just a symptom of exile, it's a cause. He reasoned that redemption is literally being held up, waiting for the Jewish people to start the work of rebuilding their home. So here's his logic broken down. First, the final redemption is going to be like the first one at the sea. It won't happen for a passive audience. Second, it needs a brave, maybe even irrational seeming first step from the people. And third, for his generation, that step was the physical, hands-on act of returning to Zion and rebuilding the land. That, he said, was their modern-day walking into the sea. And this right here is his most powerful, most provocative statement. He says that anyone who claims to believe in redemption but does nothing to bring it about, anyone who just waits to be magically carried there, is actually demonstrating that they don't really believe in it at all. He says their faith is just from the lips outward. It's not that complete faith. It's not a faith that acts.
So you see how these two stories, the ancient one at the sea and the modern one from the rabbi, they come together to teach us this one powerful idea. And it's an idea that forces us to look at our own beliefs and ask a really tough question about how we're living our lives.
So let's wrap this up. The message couldn't be clearer. True faith is not an excuse to sit back and do nothing. It is the fuel for action, especially when that action seems impossible. The sea only split after the people took that first step into the water. And for Rabbi Taketal, our own redemption depends on us taking our own first steps. At the end of the day, faith means taking responsibility. And this brings it all back to us, right now. This isn't just an ancient story or a history lesson. It's a personal challenge. In your life, with your goals in your community, what's the sea that's standing in front of you? What's that impossible-looking challenge that's asking you to stop just praying for a solution and to start walking forward, trusting that if you take that first courageous step, the waters just might part for you too?